The next item we're going to have here on the DTE Energy stage, we're going to talk about transformational brownfields, maybe dip into a little bit more economic development. We are going to be kind of talking about the priorities there and how we are going to move this state forward. So with that, joining my friend Michael Patrick Shiels is State Representative Will Snyder and State Senator Mike Weber that will be joining us and taking us for a joyride through transformational brownfields. So, Michael, it's now your turn.
Brownfield, when I knew it, was what we practiced football on. And it hurt like hell because it was as hard as this table.
Well, especially when it got to later in the season, right? It became started green and then it got brown.
Kind of just a little hard.
I don't know where he went.
Can you believe it? 2-a-day practices in August, you know, and they had salt tablets. And I mean, it was, you'd go to jail for doing something.
That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
And the worst part was...
We had 3-a-days. Rochester Adams High School, we had 3-a-days.
For football?
For football, yeah. We were there pretty much the whole day, yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. I thought I was whining about
it. Not all pads all the time, but yeah.
Well, to me, the most miserable part was, you know, when you put the pads on in the afternoon and they're still all sweaty from the morning. It's like, oh. Anyway, luckily we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's more complicated to deal with the brownfields you're doing now.
Sure.
Or more difficult, but let's begin at the beginning. What is a brownfield?
Well, you know, usually it's a site that has either some level of contamination or it has been through, you know, kind of, you know, some you know, slight redevelopment here and there, but, you know, a developer, municipality wants to see it developed, get it back on the tax rolls. And so, you know, looking at some dollars to kind of, you know, kickstart that process typically, and with this transformational brownfield that we've put in place, we've got to talk about how we need to raise the cap on that eventually with legislation this session. But really, it's all on the developer to, you know, kind of put the project together, and then they're really getting the tax, you know, credit towards the end after they've done a lot of the project. So, unlike some of these other economic development tools that we've used as a state, it's really a lot less risk for the taxpayer and a lot more a benefit for a lot of these communities. I know we're looking at it in Sterling Heights with the Lakeside Mall property, and then I know there's several others throughout the state.
So the Senator is 100% right. This is about blighted projects, contaminated projects, projects that are not on the tax rolls, that are sitting out there, vacant buildings that have been contaminated for years. And what they mean to be transformational is simply, let's do something with this. Let's make this transformational for the community, and whether that be housing, retail, some type of small retail frontage with housing. You know, in Muskegon we have the Shaw Walker redevelopment project, which is going on right now. It's about a $250 million project, 600 units. And they were able to, you know, get a transformational brownfield passed. And this is just being reinvested back into the site. In most cases for these projects, there's not other resources available for them because the projects are so big. Because to clean up the contamination, whether that be asbestos, whatever it might be, is so much money. And then after you're done with the cleanup, to proceed forward and build, it's just hard to get those resources and build your capital stack. So this is a tool that is used by developers and communities to make sure that we're investing in these projects that have long time been overlooked. And why not, you know, make sure that we're bringing these sites and making them productive parts of our communities around the state?
Well, and I'll just add to that, particularly as we're talking about housing needs in our state, particularly when we're talking about increasing and maintaining our population in our cities and our communities. This is really a win-win, you know, across the board. So.
These are mainly urban sites?
They can be in anywhere throughout the state. Anywhere where there's, you know, a contaminated or a polluted piece of property. It doesn't necessarily have to be urban. There's plenty of rural communities just north of me in Whitehall and Montague, Michigan, where there used to be a tannery, and there's some pollution that went on there. So I would push back on that and say they're not just urban communities, they're throughout the state. And the problem that we face is currently there's a cap on how many that can be approved by the Michigan Strategic Fund Board. And
how many projects or how much money?
I think it's the money.
I think it's the money.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what that number is, but it's done by different prosperity zones throughout the state. And so once you meet that cap in the zone, there's no more projects that are able to be approved, and that's a problem.
So yeah, I think the cap was done, and everything that we're trying to do with this, I think, is been to be responsible for the taxpayers. But I think putting the initial cap in place, we're now seeing that is stifled further growth, and we're seeing it. Again, the city of Sterling Heights is going through this project with the former Lakeside Mall, and of course that's prime real estate right there, right on Hall Road. Really a gateway to.
Are they going to tear down the mall or repurpose it?
They're going to do a little bit of everything. It's going to be housing. It's going to be some retail. There's already retail at the front end, right on Hall Road. So folks have been investing in that area in anticipation of this project happening. There's new restaurants. There's a lot of different things. But in the back there, when they go in the back, there's not. It's kind of like tumbleweeds and stuff going on. So they're going to keep, I think, certain parts of certain stores of the mall, but by and large, it's going to be a new development over there. It's going to be great. And so, yeah, we've talked about that in the Senate. We did pass a bill that it probably still needs a lot of work in the House with Rep. Snyder and his team over there. But a bill nonetheless that did look at responsibly raising that cap moving forward. And I think that's important as we're talking about projects that are on the horizon.
Sure, I want to commend the senator for being part of a bipartisan effort to get that out of the Senate and get that conversation moving. I know it's a large priority for Chair Anthony, and those bills are now in the House, and there's a House version that's been introduced by Rep. Aragona and Farhat, I believe, and they're working on that. There's some differences to work through so that we get a finished product that everybody can be supportive of in a bipartisan manner. I think we got a little bit of a ways to go to get there, but the fact that we're having this conversation is so important, that we're allowing the conversations so that we can talk about actual economic development happening in Michigan that is so beneficial to these communities, where we're not just necessarily looking at corporate handouts or the SOAR fund that was talked about for so long.
It doesn't help, does it?
We're going to give you this money, and this is so different. These are developers taking a risk, going out on their own, that other people won't, take that risk and build that capital stack and make that happen.
It's like two for the price of one, right? Because you're cleaning something up and creating something.
So we have another site now in Muskegon that's probably the largest site along the coastline that's still left in West Michigan on Muskegon Lake. It used to be the Sappy Paper Mill site. It's 129 acres on Muskegon Lake. It's going to be, they're going to be looking for some opportunity to invest in, and being able to remove that cap or raise that cap is going to be very critical for them to
get it through
and get it finished.
What do they plan for that?
A complete mixed-use development. It's almost like a new community along the lakeshore. When you're talking about 129 acres, what can you do with that? There's a lot of green space, public access with the city and the developer, retail, housing, you name it, that we're looking at it. There could be upwards of 6,000 units, I believe, on that site alone.
Are there ever failures?
With this particular project so far, not that I can think of off the top of my head. I think there's probably been a few that have stopped as stops and starts type of thing. But I think in general, just having as they're entering into this project, knowing that they have that the state kind of has their back on the back end, I think it is really enticing to folks to try to make some of these, again, large transformational projects happen. So these are not small projects, as we're talking about, they're really going to transform, you know, a haul road corridor, or like the waterfront there in Muskegon, and in different areas like that.
Muskegon has a good track record of
We get things done.
gussying things up.
We get things done, and we listen to you every morning on
Sweet.
1090 News Talk,
WKVZ, thank
WKVZ. And but we have a good track record. Great things are happening.
They wouldn't
in
have Miss
Muskegon right
Michigan
now.
there if it wasn't a nice place.
Well, I thought it was because of me and Rep. Steckloff that we have Miss Michigan there.
This is
but,
fair.
It's
She was a Miss Michigan.
She definitely was, and it's always one of the greatest events of the year that we host in Muskegon, especially as we're talking about the economy and pure Michigan and stuff. What does that mean for our economy? And when you come to our wonderful downtown and you see a blighted building that sat there for 35 years that nobody was able to develop, and what we've been able to do to build that capital stack out, $250 million, what that transformational brownfield program has been able to mean to that project alone is incredible. It was the last blighted site really along our Muskegon Lakeshore community. And when you pull in down Seaway Drive and you make the turn onto Heritage Landing, where I know you go for Irish Fest every year, and you saw that building there.
Yeah.
Well, the community at first, you know, there was a little pushback about big development and what that means. But within 1 year, the people in the neighborhood are like, man, I've lived here my entire life. That building's been vacant my entire life, and now they're seeing it happen in front of their very eyes. And it's because of this program, and that's why we really need to.
What's the sticking point then?
Well, I think it's one of those where there's been this legislative session, there's not been a tremendous amount of bills passed that have gone through both chambers and signed into the governor. It's probably almost record levels at this point. So I think everything is a little bit of a heavy lift, or a heavier lift than it's been in the past. I ultimately think something will get done on this, and you know, as Rep. Snyder pointed out, you know, the Senate did take the lead on that in terms of getting a bill out of the chamber at the end of last year. And again, you know, a ways to go with it, but I think it was good initial effort to get this going, just knowing that there's a real appetite to raise this cap, do it in a responsible way, but raise the cap enough where we can continue to entice this development and this you know, investment into the state of Michigan.
I'll be blunt. We find ourselves in the midst of the most unproductive legislative session since 1944. That's not something I'm proud of. That's not something that the senator's proud of. We've passed 9 bills into law this calendar year, 74 last year. We can do better, but we also prove that we can still do big things. We did it last year with a statewide road funding plan that we're putting $2 billion a year into the roads. We can still work together in a bipartisan fashion, build common ground as we're trying to do at this conference. And I'm hopeful that we can get this done by the end of the year. And I'm just thankful that the Senate was able to move the conversation along to really keep it moving.
Well, somebody call Daniel House and have him write a new column. And you guys will lead the way.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.